All right, welcome back to the In My Beach Boys Room podcast. I am Adam Schreiner, sitting here with Matthew Hartz, and we are in our final episode of our second season, 14th episode. And hey, it's been a journey. It's been fun. We have built a nice little following. We love all the comments and the engagement that we get from all our listeners. Really appreciate that. So let's talk about, real quick, the next season. So in the first season, we were learning. We had some guests. Matthew had did a couple covers with a friend, and we didn't have the same format that we did in the second season. The second season
it was still the condensed history, but we didn't have you as proactive in the listening like we have from Sunflower on. Right?
Exactly, and so what we realized after going through this season and especially for me working through each album and really listening before sitting down with Matthew and talking about it is, it really helped build the context for the Beach Boys history for me. I could actually put songs and albums to each era and each year. And so what we're going to do in the third season, and I'm not sure when yet, but in the third season, we are going to go back through all the 60s albums, and we're just going to do album analysis kind of as a supplemental piece of, or supplemental podcast to
the first season.
The first season. Mm-hmm. And because the first season is basically just the history. Matthew obviously talks about the albums, but there's not they don't have the album analysis. So that's what we're looking at for season 3. Mm-hmm. We don't know when that's going to happen, so it's really important that you take a moment right now. And if you're on YouTube, you subscribe and you hit the little bell notification, because then that will notify you. If you just subscribe, you might not get notified that we released, season 3. So hit that little bell notification. That'll let you know as soon as we launch a new video or a new podcast that'll let you know when you're on YouTube that we did that. So do that. And then also real quick, while we're talking about it, we have Instagram, Matthew Hart's Music. Probably, might do some little things on there in between season 2 and season 3. And then the Facebook, Matthew Hart's, just Matthew Hart's. Just search him on Facebook, and he's got his banjo, and then Twitter, which we may or may not get to. We'll see. So that is the social media stuff. Let's going back to kind of how we were talking about the comments and stuff like that. Although that we have this plan to do the 60s album analysis, we're open to doing other stuff. And so if anybody has any things that they would like to cover, and we have seen those that have said, when people have mentioned certain albums. Yeah,
or certain things that we could, subjects for episodes.
And we're taking all that into consideration. Mm-hmm. So leave a comment, let us know. We have tossed around the idea of, Matthew ranking his top 5 albums or his top 10 songs or, anything kind of,
like some of the other stuff that's out there, but just from my perspective.
From his perspective, and if that's something that you would like to see, just leave a comment down below. We check those. I literally get a notification on my phone when we get those comments. So we're always down to listen to the feedback and give you guys what you want. So also kind of along the same lines is in this is another thing that will be happening in the break from the Beach Boys podcast, is Matthew wants to work on some of the fiddle stuff. We have some videos, but maybe just release a little more of like your fiddle.
Well, I've gotten some requests from some friends in that world, and we're gonna do some cool things that maybe some of the Beach Boy fans might be interested in that too. So they'll
Well, because you kind of have these two kind of big knowledge areas, right? The fiddle world and then the Beach Boys world. And so we're just going to shift over to that just for a couple of videos. And you guys might be interested in checking that out. Okay. So before we get into this episode, which it might be a long episode. I mean, we have 2000 until now. Mm-hmm. That's our longest span yet, so, hey, if you need to take a break, maybe have some water, if you need, stay hydrated. This could be a long episode, but before we get into it, just real quick on kind of how the best way to listen to these. If you're new, sorry if you've been following, but if you're new and you haven't really listened to or watched these podcast episodes yet, then kind of the best way to do it that I've heard and even just from my own perspective is when we go through an episode, it's kind of good to, especially in this second season where we did these album analysis, it's better to listen, for example, and for the Sunflower album before you even, or the Sunflower episode, before you even listen to the episode, listen to the Sunflower album, get that fresh in your mind, and then listen to the episode, and you'll get a lot more out of it that way because you'll have that fresh in your head. And then the stuff that we're talking about these, because we sometimes we mention some very specific things in a song, and then you'll be able to know exactly what we're talking about. So that's the best way that I think that you can listen to the podcast and really get the most out of it. And then I guess with that, what else? Do you have anything other episode stuff that you want to mention? Okay,
I did want to talk a little bit about, it feels like we were just in here, and we were just last week. We were doing the Mike episode. We're recording this on the 18th because I've got to leave in a few hours to head out, and I figured I'm playing with the Cliff Miller Band at the Gooding Rodeo tomorrow night, and Saturday night. And then I head to Seattle for some recording Monday and Tuesday, I think. And then headed to a fiddle festival in Bozeman, Montana over the weekend of like the 27th and the 28th. And then I'm real excited. Started working with a legendary bluegrass musician named Keith Little, and we're going to do shows in Quincy, there's a show in Quincy, California as part of a bluegrass festival on the 3rd of September, and then we're doing some shows in Reno over that. So I've got we had to get this done because we're not going to have time to do anything.
This is probably the shortest amount of time that we've put between recording, because normally we give ourselves a decent amount of time, but because of your busy schedule coming up, we had to kind of condense it down.
Yeah, and I was also and I've got other things going this fall that I wanted to tell people about a little bit. Like, if anybody's seen the God Only Knows video, the Claridges and Simon Chrisman that are in that video with me, I'm going to be touring with their group and Luke Price in the late part of this year. It's going to be a really neat show, and I think I'm not quite sure what the routing is and what the cities are going to be, but I'm going to let people hopefully know about some of these things, and maybe if we have some fans in some of those areas that they can come, check out some of the things that I'm playing at.
What we'll do, and we'll start doing, especially now that we're getting a little more busy with your shows, or by choice, is that we'll start putting these on. MatthewHartMusic.com is his website, and we'll start updating that with the shows that are coming up. Well, he plays with a few local bands, but honestly, he plays all over, and so this isn't just. You could potentially see, Matthew might be coming to, a venue near you. So, so then, you can, if you want to, go see him play. And he's obviously not playing Beach Boys stuff, but still, you can
sometimes.
Sometimes.
There would be Beach Boys music. As a matter of fact, Keith Little, the bluegrass music, he loves. We did some stuff at Shasta a few weeks ago. We always do a bunch of Beach Boys stuff up there, and he heard that, and he goes, "I want to include that as part of the shows."
Yeah.
So there we go. And with the Claridges, when I do that work with them, that will include some stuff like that too.
Right, because like we've said in previous episodes, you've taught Beach Boys music at camps and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Which also another thing, if you are interested in. Us putting up video lessons of Beach Boys songs, put that in the comments. Let us know. We can hammer that out. We actually do have some of those already. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's just kind of wanted to let people know what I was doing this fall as we'll be taking our break. But I wanted to mention a dear friend of mine and a great filmmaker. About 7 years ago, I think it was, I went down and visited him. His name's Grant Wheeler, and he was living in Los Angeles at the time. And we went around to some of the big Beach Boys spots, and he took some footage of me at those places. And I was reminded of that recently and saw the first one he did, which was at the Beach Boys Landmark. And I thought, let's put a link to that. So you and I we're going to put a link to that in the description or whatever they say.
Yeah.
And it's called I think Matthew's Beach Boy Adventure Tour is well, they'll see because the link will be up there, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of cool. It's got
I'll put that in the description.
One of my favorite things is it's got the track to Sandy, which is one of my favorite unreleased tunes behind me. He was able to get that up without a copyright deal. Yeah. So anyway, but it's funny to look at something that old, but it's still really cool. And he's a wonderful friend and a wonderful filmmaker, and I just think it would be cool for people to see.
How long ago was that?
About 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So anyway, that, and then another shout out I wanted to give was another YouTuber, Jocelyn Holsington. Just amazing gal. She the best music analysis out there on the Beach Boys stuff. And what an incredible musician. I mean, versatile, so talented on so many different instruments and able to break stuff down. It's really worth people going and listening to that. I really enjoy it. I don't know if you have to be as much of a nerd as I am to really enjoy it, but it's just fantastic. And I know that she contributed. She was listed as a contributor on the Feel Flow set, wow. And everything. So she's real deal. She really is. And there's too much amazing stuff to mention. I mean, just go look up the Please Let Me Wonder episode where she breaks all the music down. It'll blow your mind.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, I wanted to just say a little bit about that. One of the things I want to talk about for this episode is the plan for it. And number one is there's so much material we're going to have to skim.
I mean,
and we're going to miss some things. Like I saw a comment recently about Al's solo album, Postcard from California. We're not going to hit on that today, although I love that too. We're going to focus more on Brian's stuff, but that definitely will be a part of a future episode. And another specifically, we're not going to cover the music from Brian's Smile release in 2004 or the Beach Boys box set from 2011. We'll talk about the phenomenon and some of the important things, but I want that to be part of, even though it wasn't officially released in the 60s, I want you to hear that in between Pet Sounds and Smiley Smile, and then we'll talk about the music.
Okay,
Does
so
that
we'll
make
talk.
any,
We'll talk about it in season 3. We'll talk about.
We'll still talk about these releases and important things that happen. We're not going to break any of the music down
because it's more important that it was during that time.
So with that said, let's get to skimming.
Yeah, let's skim through the 22 years here. So
yeah, in the beginning of the 2000s, Brian's solo tours are hot. I had seen the one in '99 in Seattle, but he was, I think. There's a CD called Live at the Roxy that was recorded, and it's an excellent live show. The band is amazing. He does Pet Sounds in its entirety. That was a big thing during this period. He went over to London and so he played the Pet Sound. Part of the show was playing the Pet Sounds album from start to finish, which had never been done before with his amazing. It's a huge deal. In the early part of the decade was one of the first times that Brother Records Incorporated took any sort of action against Al for using the Beach Boys name. But all through this at least the next 10-year period, it's just all in and out of lawsuits and court things and everything, and it gets dizzying to think about. But I was just thinking about mentioning that it starts to, I think this is the year all that gets going. 2001, we have the David Leaf produced all-star tribute to Brian Wilson that was at Radio City Music Hall. in New York.
Okay.
It was a huge show, and the heavies, Elton was there, Paul Simon was there, Billy Joel was there, David Crosby, Jimmy Webb, Vince Gill, which I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. It was an amazing show, and those guys all paid amazing tribute to him. David did an amazing job putting that together, but how he brought all those people together.
Right.
There's a lot more than
Right.
I'm not mentioning, but specifically it stands out to me as Paul Simon did Surfer Girl just by himself and his acoustic guitar. And Brian says it's his favorite thing from that night too. You can find that.
Really?
Oh, wow. It's really, really, really awesome. But Vince sang Surf's Up. And he talks about, I've seen videos or interviews on the internet where he's talking about some of the hardest things he's ever had to do live. And he talks about having to sing Surf's Up live with Jimmy Webb playing the piano, and David Crosby was singing with him too. And it's just an amazing thing. Fast forward a few years, and Larry Franklin, my fiddle playing friend who played on Stars and Stripes and Imagination, he introduced me to Vince the first time. And I was talking to Vince about a couple of things, but I mentioned the show. I said, that thing you did on the Surf's Up you did on that show, that tribute to Brian in 2001. I said, that's one of the most amazing things. And his head snapped, and he just looked at me and he goes, that's the best band. He said that band was incredible.
Oh.
And I just remember Vince saying that to me. So, I thought that was pretty cool, to have that.
Saying how he reacted, it definitely is something.
Yeah. The Wonderments can take that pat on the back, and everybody else in Brian's band. But that was just a moment for me too. That was the first time I met him, and one of the first things we talked about was that. Also that year, because Paul had done the tribute show with him, he asked Brian to tour with him. So Brian was opening for Paul Simon that summer, and Dad and I went up, it says June 9th, to the Gorge in Washington, the amphitheater up there, and saw Brian and Paul Simon, which was huge. Dad was a huge Paul Simon fan, and I got a heavy dose of that when I was a kid too, and I love Paul Simon also. As a matter of fact, Trio Rococo, the tribute album by the Danish, I think, artists, that features, it's a cello, a harp, and an oboe, and they do all music of Paul Simon and Brian Wilson. And that was before any of this came about.
Right.
But I remember that show was just magical. Brian was amazing on that particular show, and I remember Dad liking Brian's portion of the show better than Paul's, which was, he's such a huge Paul Simon fan that was kind of interesting for me, for Dad to say, I kind of like Brian's part better, The next year, 2002, Brian does the Queen's Jubilee. He goes to London and is part of the Queen's 75th birthday. I think, that's what it was, the Queen's Jubilee. But anyway, he performed Warmth of the Sun with Eric Clapton.
Oh.
For that. And I'm not sure if that's where I'm not sure if that instigated Eric being part of the Carl Wilson show later in the year or not, but this in 2002 is the year that I finally got to go to the Carl Wilson events that I had missed that previous year when I won that trivia contest, right? And so Clapton was there doing Warmth of the Sun with Brian. And as a matter of fact, I was kind of behind the venue, and I saw Clapton drive up in a Mercedes, and a few girls just were going nuts, and there he is. And but then watched him hang out with Van Dyke. Van Dyke was there before the show, and that was kind of cool that night. And also, that weekend when I was there, I remember being on the Santa Monica Pier when I first met Alan Boyd, and he talked to me about the fiddle stuff, and then I talked to him about all the Beach Boys stuff, and he introduced me to a few other people. But I remember another fan coming up to Alan and asking him about the Nebworth stuff, and I hadn't heard much about that. I knew what Nebworth was. It's a famous concert they did in 1980, but or I probably did know they were working on it, but it was a set that they were working on a DVD and an album to commemorate that concert. And so I remember Alan saying it'll be out later this year, and it was.
Yeah.
And he produced it and did an awesome job on it, and it's a great document of all three. You know, it's all three Wilson brothers and Al and Bruce and Mike. You know, so it's the six of that classic period lineup, and it's just a really, really great show. And that was an important release in 2002. 2003, Sounds of Summer comes out for the first time, which ultimately has become the compilation that supplanted Endless Summer and all those things that came before it, because now it's sold 800 million, jillion, zillion, whatever it is. It keeps setting new records, and the new set came out earlier this year. To me, that's all new stuff. And, you know, now they're having box sets to commemorate it, you know. Yeah. But anyway, so that's the Sounds of Summer comes out in 2003. 2004. Whew. What a year. I don't know when we heard the rumblings of Brian was going to put Smile together, but man, it was huge. And then Darian was helping him with it. As a matter of fact, Darian Sahanaja, the leader of the Wondermints, who's Brian's musical secretary. He was in charge of getting everything together for Brian to listen to and how they might put it together. But then they were looking at some stuff, and they saw some handwritten lyrics to Do You Like Worms, and it was Van Dyke's writing, but they couldn't read it. And so I don't know if Darian suggested, let's call Van Dyke. Well, anyway, they called him to ask him what the words were. And they also, during the phone conversation, said, okay, will you help us finish this thing? So they got Van Dyke, who was the original. So wow. Brian, Van Dyke, and Darian finished Smile. Now, you tell me that isn't close to what we should have had, you know, at least, you know what I mean? Then, yeah. And it's a dream come true. This is 37 years after Smile should have been released, right. I think is what I used to calculate on that. But I was beside myself. I remember I had my music store, and I'd go up every night because there was a website that was dropping every track before the thing was released, and they knew all the nerds would be. I was there right at the right. Yeah, I heard it all before it was released, but every night, every track was just an absolute. They did an amazing job, and they recorded that thing fast. Yeah. They had already been performing Smile live. Brian took it over to London and did it as a whole album too. And then actually, after they'd been playing it live for a little while, then they went into the studio and laid it down, which was smart because they've all been playing it a lot. Right. You know, so that was, you know, the album and the tour that went along with that. Brian got his first Grammy on that, ironically, with Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, the original Fire music, which scared him and probably had a lot to do with killing Smile in the beginning. And so he won a Grammy for, I think, the best instrumental of the year with Fire.
Really?
His first Grammy.
In 2004?
In 2004 is Brian's first Grammy, and he wins it for Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, which is the track that supposedly killed Smile.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that is. There's lots of stories with this, but we're going to have to be brief and go on. One thing I want to say is my friend and I, Katie Glassman, at the time, we went to Chicago and saw the Smile tour. So Chicago is where Mrs. O'Leary's Cow kicked over the lantern that started the big fire, right? You know, and I didn't plan that out, but I thought, how cool is that? Brian mentioned that at the show too. Yeah. So I got to see the Smile tour. Also, David Leaf, what a huge thing. That he did that tribute show in 2001. He did the documentary, Beautiful Dreamer. This is an amazing documentary on Smile. It's one of my favorite Beach Boy related documentaries ever. But I can't say anything other than just watch it. If you want to know, you know, you want to learn about Smile. Here's this is a little Endless Summer Quarterly put this out. It's a little single of Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, you know, the one that he won the Grammy for. When I went to the concert with Katie in Chicago, here's the program for that. But what I love, and I feature this, Dominic Priori did this production timeline of Smile in the middle of kind of like the gatefold of this thing. And I feature that in the Smile area of my museum. But I love that thing. Sorry, nerdy things. Oh, I didn't talk about the fact that in 02, here's my, this is the set list. If I've never shown that before, when I ran sound for the Beach Boys and I snatched the set list off the mixing board and my little backline badge.
So that's the actual set list that was on the mixing board, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, there were several of them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I just grabbed one of them there. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Beautiful Dreamer is, you got to see it. And I guess I have to quit talking about Brian Smile or we won't get to anything else.
Yeah, and that in and of itself. Go on.
Also, in 2004, we get a new album of all Brian originals, basically. Mm-hmm. You're thinking, what? I don't know if they had a contractual obligation or something. It's like, why all this? They had Smile, and then this. So this is Getting In Over My Head.
Yes,
which is an album of tunes that were, some of them were supposed to be on Sweet Insanity, some of them from the Paley sessions, which those are some Sweet Insanity songs, and there's one at least from way back in the Gary Usher things before his first solo album. So it's kind of a lot of old songs and maybe some new ones. Okay.
Well, and this is the one that you gave me the homework for, and then I could not find it. I couldn't find. Normally, I've been able to find either YouTube playlists of even if they're not on Spotify or Google Play or anything like that. I could find them on YouTube, but this one, I could find the song Getting In Over My Head, but that's it. I can't find any, which was kind of interesting that it was just nowhere. The album itself was nowhere to be found.
So weird. There's some weird reason. I've noticed that before when I've been trying to find stuff off Getting In Over My Head. And I had the same issue yesterday, and then I remembered years ago, I went and found the CD, but that's one where I misplaced the CD, so I thought, how am I going to listen to this? I haven't heard a lot of it in a long time, and I've wanted to and had the same issue. Idiot me. Oh, Hearts, you have the vinyl. So I put the vinyl on yesterday and listened to everything, and you told me, you said, man, I can't find it, so we just decided that I would give a quick little sketch of it.
Yeah, and and you could take it from here, and I'll just sit back and enjoy because I have no point of reference with this one.
Right. Well, you know what? I put that vinyl on, and this thing's aged well. I remember being fairly disappointed with some of it, and still there's weak parts of it, but I think it was compared to how well Smile was done, the studio Smile that same year,
right?
Right. And but anyway, it's got a lot of guests on it.
Okay.
Elton John's on the opening track.
Oh, no kidding.
And Paul McCartney's on a tune. Eric Clapton is playing guitar on a tune called City Blues.
Just heavy hitter after
yeah,
heavy hitter.
It's quite the guest deal, and I already mentioned the fact that a lot of it's just older tunes that have been re-recorded for this project. That's my main problem is that I was comparing it to the brilliance of Smile that had been released, and it feels like Getting In Over My Head was a little bit rushed. But that being said, there's some real high points of it. The Soul Searching, which was done. Carl had done that at the Don Was sessions for the Beach Boys in '95 that never got released. He had put a vocal on there, so this is a Carl Brian combo released after Carl has passed, right? But it's awesome. Love that song. There's Getting In Over My Head that is just an amazing tune.
Yeah, when I heard it,
this version might be my favorite. Rainbow Eyes is a tune that was on Sweet Insanity I just loved, and there's a few of these that were originally on Sweet Insanity. Don't Let Her Know She's an Angel, and there's a previous demo of that one even that's better than all of them. But I'm finding as I listened to the album, I thought it was a good album, but a lot of these things I was preferring the earlier Sweet Insanity versions or arrangements. And in particular, I wanted to talk about Fairy Tale, what is called Fairy Tale now, which started out as Save the Day on Sweet Insanity. And you'll remember a couple months ago, the YouTube channel was Bits and Bobs, and they had thrown up, I think they were, I don't know if they called it, it said David Foster, Brian Wilson. I can't remember what it was called, but I started playing it, and I just went, wow, what is this? And it was some background voices in a track, and all of a sudden it hit on me, wait a second, this is Save the Day. And that took me on a whole trip of finding David Foster's produced. And David Foster, for people who don't know, Chicago, Celine Dion, huge music producer.
Okay.
But this was early in his career, and he and Brian wrote this tune, and he released a version of it with a singer named Warren, I hope it's Weeby, and it's just beautiful. It's called Is There a Chance? If you can find it, David Foster, Is There a Chance? And I was obsessed with that thing when I heard it. I told you, I was just like, oh my goodness. Because when in the 90s, when I was hearing Sweet Insanity and stuff like that, I was thinking, man, what if somebody took this and made it current? Even though I don't like some of the slick production or anything like that, but I was convinced that Brian's music could be absolutely current, just put within the right context for whatever the market was at the time, right? And this is a big validation of it for me. But I mean,
it was cool. I remember when you showed me.
So anyway, that's getting in over my head. It definitely, it was better than, I enjoyed it more than I remembered, just because I was comparing it to Smile way back then. 2005, he puts out a Christmas album, a solo Christmas album that Elton John's lyricist, Bernie Taupin, I think wrote some lyrics for one, and Jimmy Webb wrote some lyrics for the other one, so that's kind of cool. But in this period, it's a little bit slow, and I do want to mention that early in 2007, my world got rocked when my little sister passed away.
Okay.
And that's important context for the next stuff that's coming up. It really did, as you can imagine. She passed away in a car wreck, so very sudden and very, very, very close to her. But everything that happened in the next few years is very shaded by that for me. But I had been working on my first pop album that got released in 2007. It's called Pictures, if anybody wants to check it out.
And they can just find that on YouTube?
I think even on some Spotify.
Oh, okay.
But I have one pop album that I released in 2007 called Pictures, and then one that I released, I think, in 2013 called A Steady Sense of Feel.
Okay.
And we have another one almost ready to go.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll get off of that. Right after I had been working on that album, was almost finished with it when she passed away. So, and I had my first band that I was doing my own solo stuff with, which my second wife, Emily, was a big part of. And she's on that first album. And we, in 2007, before she passed away, we went down to Monterey and saw Brian with Al for the first time. He started including Al in the shows, and that was real important to me. And as a matter of fact, this shirt I've got on right here is from that, and I'm going to turn around. You might have to edit this a little bit so people can see it's got all the dates on the back, and that Monterey date is down there someplace.
Got it.
But that was an amazing show and very special just because Al was there, and it was wonderful to watch him supporting Brian, which that's what he's continued to do to this very day.
Right?
Yeah. And so anyway, let's get on to Lucky Old Son.
Okay. And
in 2008, so we could finally get you involved.
It's
Adam.
okay. Hey, I've been along for the ride, and I was able to find this one and listen to this one. So I'm just going to come out and say I wasn't too, and I've said this in the past too, like the narratives that are done. I'm not, wasn't really, I didn't really.
Oh, Van Dyke wrote those.
I kind of actually figured that, just based off of the, just how he writes,
very cool.
I didn't. Yeah, I definitely thought that. It's like, I don't think these are Brian. These don't feel like Brian lyrics. One thing I picked up is Brian lyrics, especially Landy lyrics. Jesus, but so I don't really talk about those much. I just stuck to I just stuck with the music, and so it kicks off with that lucky old son. The very first part's it's just very nice, and it actually feels very Beach Boys to me. Even.
That's an old song that Brian loves,
okay.
And has been covered by many people. I think it's a version by Louis Armstrong that he likes. But
that
it's a
lucky
very
old son is
and this is like supposed to be a suite of songs that you kind of carries the lucky old son thing through. You'll hear those lyrics in other songs, but
so that was a cover.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
And then Morning Beat. I liked it. It was a good beat. I mean, listen to that in the morning. That'll set the tone right for the morning. If that's what he's going for. But yeah, I liked it. I don't know if you have anything on that one.
Well, I don't. I started looking at all the tracks on these, and I wanted to say, but before you get too far down your road, I remember telling you the other day when we did the Mike episode, we were talking about what you were going to be listening to, and I said that Lucky Old Son was close to his best solo album, and after digesting it, I wouldn't say that. After the second, I'm just second guessing that a little
statement.
bit. And from my point of view, it's a strong album, but there's 3 standout songs. And and those are the rest of them are really. There's only 3 standout songs.
I'm curious. I'm curious. Which
do you want me to go ahead and tell you what mine are?
How about you tell me once we get to them?
Okay.
We have 3 coming, and you let me know once we get there. Obviously, Morning Beat is not one of them.
I don't mind it though.
Okay.
A lot of it I don't mind.
Okay, so then we have Good Kind of Love, and there's a female voice on that one.
Yeah, her name was Taylor Mills. She was part of the band back then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that one. This little kind of tempo change in there. I like how the voice comes in after this tempo change. That was like, I don't know, the part that caught my attention.
Yeah, I like that little tune.
Forever She'll Be My Surfer Girl. I'm not a big fan of this
schmaltzy.
one. Yeah, schmaltzy.
Anything that's kind of like, they did a song in '64 called "Do You Remember All the Guys Who Gave Us Rock and Roll?" That's a kind of a history thing, but I'm not a big fan of those little type things. Yeah.
Okay, so then this is the first time Live Let Live, or
Let Live. This was for a animated movie. Brian and Van Dyke wrote this. It was the Penguins. I can't remember what it was. I never saw the movie, but I know that it was big at the time. Okay. I'm sure the people will tell me in the comments.
And so in parentheses it says reprise. Like that's what on the title, and that happens on a number of songs where in the title it says. Oh, it might just reprise.
Be talking about the spoken part afterward. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I just. Oh okay, I see now. There's like at the end it's like there's like this like orchestra type thing at the end that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah. This is one of my big tunes.
This one is?
Yes.
This is one of the 3 that you're talking about?
Ocean, we come to the ocean, and God bless that chord progression. It just, I would say, when this album came out, I would listen to it over and over and over and over.
Okay, so this is one of the big ones. This is one of the 3.
For me.
Okay. Yeah. Then we go into Mexican Girl. I
like it
this
too.
One. Yeah,
I like it.
I like the guitar. I like the feel. The changes throughout this. I like the changes. I thought the song was good. California Roll. Is this a cover?
No, original tune.
Okay, there's something about it that sounded familiar.
Well, they're doing it like kind of oldies movie effect on the voice. I don't know, maybe that gave you a little bit of that, but I don't think it's a cover. No, I think that's
okay. Yeah, there's just something familiar, and going through these albums like I have, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, that's a cover. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so that came out of nowhere. Oxygen to the Brain. It was different,
kind of like a Love You track. You're like Johnny Carson off of Love You or something.
Yeah.
As I was listening to it, it was
Yeah, no, that's funny. Is that that is exactly how I feel about this song. Is that it reminded the Johnny Carson? I had that same sentiment of like, what are we talking about here? Like, even though on this one, lyrically, some of the stuff he's saying is cool.
Oh, he's just real direct.
Yeah,
and don't talk about it, getting out of bed and getting the oxygen going, and
can't wait too long.
That's a snippet from that. So that's a Beach Boys thing from '67 during the Wild Honey sessions.
I was wondering. That's the Beach Boys on that one.
No, that's the Brian and his band singing it right there. But that's originally a Beach Boy thing.
Gotcha. Okay, and I thought it was a cool little harmony take.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Midnight's Another Day. Is this so? This is another one. This is number 2.
Well, this is actually number 3 for me.
Okay.
But it's a big tune, and I was even though it doesn't resonate quite as deeply as the other two. I was listening to it yesterday and analyzing the chord changes, and it's a brilliant little tune.
Well, it's funny is that because it's a slow one, and how I feel about slow songs. But when I was listening to it, I kind of had a feeling. I was like, I feel like this is one of those songs that I think Matthew probably likes. I couldn't tell you why, but I try not to dismiss the slower songs right away, like I have in the past. Just to listen a little closely. So then.
I can't remember what comes.
I wrote that Lucky Old Son.
Yeah, there's a little reprise. They just give a little bit of that and then go right into Southern California, which is that's my favorite.
No, Going Home.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's right. Going Home before that. Yeah, which I'm not a big
it's
fan.
A jam. It's a jammer. I liked it. There's some cool backup vocalist things that I noticed that caught my attention. Yeah. And I like how Brian is singing, actually. How he's singing is a little different than how he sings on the other one. So I thought that was kind of cool as well. But let's get into Southern California then. And so this is the other one.
This is my favorite tune on the or Live Let Live is, and then this one.
Well, I mean, lyrically, he's probably speaking about something that actually happened, where he had a dream about his brothers.
I fell asleep in the band room and woke up in history.
Yeah,
that's what But the music really, even the chord changes on the front end of it too. I mean, it gives me goosebumps. Just it's a nice little piece of music. Yeah. I think it's overlooked in his catalog a lot.
Yeah, the song is. Yeah, I thought it was cool too, for sure. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's it. We take out all the poem stuff.
This was another one that it was. I mean, London and I think what's the Royal Festival Hall is where he kept on going back to debut all these shows. Had probably had a good relationship with them, but he took Lucky Old Son over, and I think they did that in its entirety when they released it. So. Anyway, it was an event, and Brian cited it in later years. As a matter of fact, around the 50th anniversary, I was watching an interview the other day, and they were asking him what he thought of the Smile album. He was actually, I don't like the Smile album. He said, "What do you like?" I kind of like Lucky Old Son, and it says in summer days and summer nights. But it's I think that it's it was a special one to him too.
Yeah.
2010. I wanted to just real quick, if you haven't watched the Al Jardine is a Badass, we talk about this a little bit more, but this is when I met Al at that event in Big Sur.
And in that episode you get the full story.
So it kind of gives you a context of where I was when that was all going on. This year also Brian did an album of all George Gershwin music. Brian was hugely affected by a piece of music that Gershwin did called Rhapsody in Blue. It was like one of the first things when he was a baby. And so he's a big Gershwin fan. That's an early influence. They had 2 unfinished tunes in Gershwin's catalog, and they came, the family or the estate, whatever, came to Brian Wilson, and they knew he was, and they said, "Will you finish these?" So there's 2 Brian Wilson, George Gershwin songs on this, and it's an amazing thing. I didn't even tell you to check it out, but it's called Brian Wilson Reimagines Gershwin. But he does those 2, and then he does a bunch of other Gershwin tunes on there, but it's all Gershwin. So I wanted to say something about that. 2011. I think this was in the beginning of the year, and a Brian Wilson album comes out called songs in the key of Disney. It's all Disney tunes from some of the greatest movies that he's always loved. From everything from way back to The Jungle Book up to Toy Story.
No kidding.
But one of my favorite on that album is I think it's from Dumbo, and it's called Baby Mine. And that's my favorite thing he does on that. But that was a big album. Both of those albums were pretty big, right? So we had the Gershwin stuff in 10 and then this Disney stuff, which I'm not making much of it, but it was big. But the big thing in 11 was a dream come true. I mean, this is after the Brian Smile from 04, right? But we all wanted to hear all of I had the real Beach Boy bootleg since the 90s, and had heard a lot of it subsequently, but never... And we finally heard, Mark and Alan are putting together the Smile box. It's going to be the actual Beach Boys, not Brian's band, that did an amazing job on it. But what they did is Brian and Van Dyke and Darien did such a great job of crafting that Smile in 2004. They used that as the template to say, okay, here's what the Beach Boys Smile album probably could have been. That's a 6 CD box set, and it's just like the first part of the first CD is here's what Smile might have been, and it's based on what Brian and Van Dyke and Darien did in 04. But here we are in 2011. We finally got the go-ahead from everybody in the band and Brother Records and Capitol to release this thing that everybody's been waiting for, and boom, it was, God, I remember going to the store and getting that thing. I just so thrilled and sat down and listened for days.
Yeah.
They got a Grammy for the best historical release. I hope I'm right on that. It was big news, lots of publicity, and it did not disappoint at all. I mean, we'll get into that, but I just can't say what a huge thing that was. It was one thing to hear that Brian Smile in 04 with his band's voices on it, and a lot of them do a really good job at aping the timbre and the quality of the Beach Boy voices, right? But it's not quite like like those young bucks in 1966 and 67.
Yeah, the real deal.
Powerful. Yeah, I'm gonna have so much fun next season when we do get to that part. It's a wild story. Okay, done with the Smile stuff. 2012, 50th anniversary, which they did make a big deal of it that year. I mean, everybody was a little bit younger and a little bit healthier, but the album that they made that year was the first album since 1992. So it's now 2012.
Right.
20 years between studio albums. It's produced by Joe Thomas, mainly, who was the guy that did the Stars and Stripes thing, and then did Imagination with Brian. And way back even then, they started hatching plans for the final pieces of the Beach Boys' career. And hey, maybe we'll save this song for. I think That's Why God Made the Radio was written a long time ago and had been being saved for this. A lot of this stuff was earmarked for it. But anyway, the lineup is Mike, Brian, and Al, and then David came back, who's been with them off and on many times throughout the years, but of course was one of the originals, right. And then Bruce.
Right.
So it's a classic lineup, and their vocals are all strong. All of them.
I noticed that.
Brian's, and there's some manipulation done in there, but who stands out again, though, is just the superhero, I think, of this story these days is Al Jardine.
Yeah.
Man, what a strong voice. And Bruce is real strong on that album, too. But Brian and Mike, too, for that.
Well, and even I think it was with Somewhere Paradise where I actually thought that I got Al confused for Carl.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's... Yeah, definitely has.
He's the best.
Voice.
I mean, he's the one. He has the strongest voice left.
No doubt.
Right? But he really shined on this album for me. I think that when this album came out, Adam, I think it went to number 13.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think I don't know if that has to do with internet type
different metrics or whatever.
Metrics and stuff like that. But I think I saw that, and please correct me, folks, if I'm wrong on that. But I know it.
It did.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we were all surprised.
Yeah.
Tunes I think that are really strong on it. Real quick, or did you want to do it?
No.
You
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I did. That's why God Made the Radio is a brilliant tune. It might not be a real. It's just musically, it does. It's almost like this whole world in key changes and tricks and everything like that. It's just crazy. Isn't It Time, which is our cover today, is one of the most fun things they've done in a long time. A great sing along. I remember, man, this needs to be a single. I think they did put it out as a single too, but you know.
Yeah, no, that one had with the with all the stuff that's going on, the clap sound, just like it's just got a cool little groove. And who's singing on that? Is that
they rotated a whole bunch. There's Brian starts. And then Bruce, in the choruses, and then Al in the choruses, and and then but besides those, Daybreak Over, that's Mike's tune. Daybreak Over the Ocean is a nice tune. I agree with Brian on. We talked about that a little bit last episode. Strange World, I think, is a good tune, and the rest of the tunes on this are not bad tunes either. I just want to kind of hit the high points for me. That trilogy at the end, From There to Back Again, and Pacific Coast Highway and Summer's Gone, those are amazing, and that is an amazing way to end what might have been the last Beach Boy album. I just think that's a classic way to do that. I think Brian overperformed. I think everybody overperformed on this project, and really, it's a really great album.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I was just, as you were kind of running over those songs, I was, all these ones, I liked the whole album. Mm-hmm. I liked the whole album. There's
Spring Vacation.
Yeah, there's really
Life
nothing,
of Bill and Sue.
I think Life of Bill and Sue is the only one where I thought was kind of odd.
There again, that's a Brian Johnny Carson deal.
Yeah,
watching reality shows is what he was. I guess what he had been
like referencing,
sitting watching that on TV and thinking, let's watch somebody's private life.
It was kind of one thing going into the album was the feeling of knowing that Carl, who ended up being probably, I didn't know until I started working through all these albums that some of my favorite songs they have the Carl moments that we've talked about. I think all my top songs have those Carl moments. And so going into an album knowing that those moments aren't going to be there, felt a little like, I wonder how this is going to go. And just that first Think About the Days, how I just thought that was a perfect, almost like it read my mind on like, just, I was like, wow, this is fitting,
nice. I like that.
On how my approach into this album. I mean, I guess I'll talk about my favorite is Shelter.
Oh,
I like there was something about, I think honestly, there's a moment in Shelter where it was like a Carl moment, but Carl's not doing it.
Well, that's Jeffrey Foskett, who's supposed to have the most Carl-like voice, especially at that time in the group, I think,
Okay, so
has been with them since the early 80s, or not. It's a long story.
Yeah.
Great musician that I haven't got to talk about at all, that I got to meet down there. And
oh, cool. Yeah. But yeah, that was, and I think I was like, oh, this is where Carl would have been, right here. Mm-hmm. And so I like that. And there's just different movements and weird little, I don't know, they're just cool things on it. But yeah, I think we don't have to get too much into it.
Yeah. So besides the album, we also had that 50th anniversary tour, which John and I got to go down on July 4th.
Nice.
To Provo. I think I've already told that story, but I did get this tour program.
Very nice.
Good place to, and it was really beautiful and really well done. But man, that was a magical time for me and my brother, who had the Beach Boys tribute band together, and got to go down and see them on their last tour together on July 4th.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Also, one that came out, a compilation that came out in celebration. And this was big. Made in California. 6 CD set thing that just absolutely amazing. God, I'm not... Anyway.
Look at that. Yeah.
It was... And this... The boys, again... Alan and Mark and everybody else that put these things out. So much new unreleased stuff and new mixes, and just that was a buffet when it came out. And so that 2012 was a big year and should have been because of the 50th anniversary. Go ahead and fast forward to 2014.
Okay.
And Brian's No Peer Pressure solo album. But I want to make a note before we talk about the album that now not only is Brian helping, or not only is Al helping Brian out a lot, they bring in one of my favorite guys from Beach Boy history, Blondie Chaplin.
Oh, nice.
Comes in, starts playing shows, and I think to this day is still, he and Al are out supporting and helping Brian with those shows. And he was part of the No Peer Pressure album, and I think there's a song called I need a sailing something. I need to look at or what do you have that written down off No Peer Pressure?
Sail Away, maybe.
Maybe I think it's Sail Away, which is the same title as a Randy Newman song. I guess is why it confuses me a little bit. But anyway, it's really cool that Blondie came in and started helping. And I didn't expect that at all. He had the gig he had before that was singing vocals on the road with the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like he'd been
just hanging out.
Yeah. So he came over from that to help Brian. Thought that was cool. No Peer Pressure. Joe Thomas, again, the guy that did Imagination, That's Why God Made the Radio. I understand that quite a bit of the material on this album was earmarked for the real last Beach Boy album that never got going because of couldn't get.
So on Peer Pressure, you're saying?
Yes, there's some material
on Peer Pressure because of
because they didn't get the last Beach Boy out, or they couldn't see how it would work out that they were going to get that last Beach Boy album going.
Right.
So then some of these songs were. Especially there's I think the last song is on I think that was supposed to be the last song on the last Beach Boy album, sort of thing. So, that being said, this is a real different album.
It is different.
That he brought in a lot of guests, but and Al is featured on quite a bit. I love the song Tell Me Why with Al, but for me, this came out at a real interesting time in my life. This 2014 was an interesting year for me, and I just remember being very affected by some of this just because of where I was. And Special Love that has this, I think the guy's name is Peter Hollins, maybe, I want to say. But I really like that. I don't know if too many people pick that one out, but that's an amazing piece. He does one with a country artist, a gal named Casey Musgraves, called I Guess You Had to Be There. And I love her voice. And this is kind of Mona again from the Love You album, because it's one chord progression pretty much over and over and over. But I love that. And then there's a song called Saturday Night that this guy named Nate Royce, and he was a part of a real famous group. Yeah.
So let me tell you about Nate Roos. So Nate Roos.
Roos? Okay.
I think so. I could be have that wrong.
Okay, right.
But when I heard his voice on this song, I was like, no way, because I just put it in my headphones and I wasn't really seeing, I look at the collaborations when they come up. I was like, who's this, But when this one came up, I knew exactly. He has a very distinct voice. Mm-hmm. And he was actually part of a band called The Format before Fun.
Okay.
And it was probably in the 2008. No, it would have been earlier. It would have been probably 2004 to 2008. I loved this band called The Format in high school. And actually they came here and I got to see them. I think they were at the Venue is what it was called. And so I got to see Nate played with this band called The Format. It was one of my favorite bands in high school, and not many people know The Format. And then he did Fun, and that's where you blew up there. But
what was that big tune from Fun?
It's like We Are Young or something.
Okay.
I don't even want to attempt to sing it.
I'll
save myself that embarrassment because it's how the chorus. But it's like Tonight We Are Young or something like that.
Okay.
And then they had a couple. They had a couple that were pretty big. But I just couldn't believe it when I heard his voice on here, just because I've been such a fan of Nate and his bands for
and this
years.
is an awesome tune.
Oh, it's
and
so
Brian
good.
Singing on the bridge, and the chord construction is really. It's like it hits on all cylinders for me, man. It's just like another example of a modern, with that, that guy singing it. You just want to, woo.
Yeah, no,
it's
that one
amazing.
Well, and then I do want to mention Runaway Dancer, because I had never heard a Brian song like Runaway Dancer with the dance beat, and I think I like it a lot, actually, because it was just so like so different,
So Brian has, I think it's 5 adopted children besides Carney and Wendy now that he had with Melinda. And I think one of the old, Daria, I believe is her name. I think that some of these people were some of her favorite artists, or maybe at least one, like maybe that she wanted her dad to work with or something. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Or,
Okay.
I hope I'm not wrong on that. But I heard rumblings.
Okay.
Of that.
Okay. No, did you say something about Our Special Love? Did you say
yes.
that? Okay. I was listening to that song, and when the vocals I out loud, I'm like, whoo, like turn down the lights, get that lady next to you, curl up. Like, I mean, that is a romantic
and some rich, lush chords and amazing singing by all the guys that sing on that track. But I mean,
any song that evokes an actual like vocal response is like, that means there's something going on. Like I literally, whoa, what?
And then when it goes into the very beginning, but then when it goes into his little dance beat, I like that part all right, but then when it segues into that chorus where Brian comes in and says, "A special love can be found anywhere." The way he sings, he sings that beautifully, and that's so good.
Yeah, so good. No, that one. Yeah,
I actually hear people disliking that track. And I'm gonna go, what? Can I get a bat and hit you?
Yeah. I mean, I could see if that's not your type of. Yeah. If that's not your, maybe you were hurt. Somebody hurt you, and that's why you don't want.
I think when some of the fans don't like some of this, they don't like some of the slick production on. They'd rather hear this stuff stripped down, like in the Paley sessions, or I think that's mainly when I hear negative comments, it's about Joe Thomas's slick production on everything.
And I've always said, and I think I've mentioned a couple times in this podcast that, music is, music, it's such a personal thing. You might not know why you like it. You just don't like it. And, I always, people are like, well, the country gets a lot. They don't like country, or they'll make fun of someone for like country. Like they like what they like. You like what you like. I don't care what you like. I like it. You don't like it. I don't care. I
like everything good.
Yeah, I like everything. I mean, seriously.
Which brings me to this point. I mean, I want to say again that the last song on here, was probably going to be the last Beach Boy record. But moving into what you were just talking about, Bruce helped, at least with the one in the early 2000s. He did a classical release that I think was done with the London Philharmonic early in the 2000s. Did an amazing job with it. Beach Boy songs with orchestra arrangements. Capitol went and did something, and it's been fairly recent. I've heard just little bits of it. I don't listen to those things much. I listened to them a little bit. I was kind of interested in the earlier one, but I'm not much of a fan. To me, it's like too much syrup on a Beach Boys deal.
Okay.
I love classical music. I love, and I have my favorite things and favorite composers and so much love just for everything classical and respect. So I don't want it to be construed as that. I just don't. This is one of those contexts I don't like to hear the Beach Boys music in, and I never listen to those things.
Okay.
So
along the same lines,
putting that out there, right? You know,
actually, that does remind me, and maybe you were planning on mentioning this, but we did have At My Piano, which we talked about in the very first episode of this season. We
he's gotten it, and then of course Long Promised Road,
right?
But in between, the 2014 and now some of the big things that happened in 2017, the Sunshine Tomorrow set came out, which was all the stuff, Smiley Smile and Wild Honey, basically a box set, but it wasn't a box set. And then Alan and Mark mainly worked on, there was the Wake the World and I Can Hear Music, and those were only digital releases, I think. They weren't physical at all, right? But I got both. Those are just amazing. And then after that came Feel Flows, which we already covered. Right. So here we're bringing everybody into the thing. And then we've got the Carl and the Passions / Holland set that's supposed to be later this year. That's just like Feel Flows, just those two records, which I think is just going to be as good.
Nice.
And I am jacked about that. Can anybody tell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did want to say that, in closing this episode, I want to, we've got Mike and Bruce out there with their band just still getting it. And
so you got Mike and Bruce out there
as the Beach Boys.
But then you have
Brian and Al and Blondie are out with Brian's musicians, and they're doing their thing.
So that's as the Brian.
That's
Wilson.
Brian.
Gotcha.
So and there used to, Al used to be Brian's group and Al's group and Mike's group. Now Al's with Brian most of the time. So I wanted to reference that. Brian supported by Alan and Blondie and his band, and Brian's out there playing shows right now, and I look at the footage and I wonder why.
Really?
It's pretty. He can barely sing.
Yeah,
he can barely sing those songs, and I also look at Al, because they have to bring. He's literally using a walker to get out there.
Brian or Al?
Brian.
Oh, okay.
No, Al is and Brian. Where Al is escorting Brian usually and being kind of a shepherd and a minder, or what it looks like when they get on stage, And I just have to. Here he is, 60 years later, helping his friend. They started and. There's got to be reasons that Brian's out there. They're doing a tour right now. It started, they were opening for Chicago. It was kind of an oldies deal, and I don't know if it's contractual, but man, I don't know how much longer he can do this. I love him, and the music is amazing.
Well, it might be just one of those things, when people retire, they get, a lot of times when they, don't have a lot to look forward to, they don't have a lot going on, that, you just kind of, you lose motivation, and so maybe this is, maybe that's part of it.
Well, no, he's always not had motivation. No, he doesn't. No, it's no doubt other people have this. He might, like he says in Long Promised Road. Yeah, I like to go do concerts, but he doesn't. He's not motivated. He's not. It's like Darian says. Is it better to have Brian sitting around on the couch watching TV or doing, being active,
right?
Or something. But at this stage in the game, it's really getting questionable to whether to get him out there and the performing, or I think his legacy has already done the job. But other people might have other opinions on that, but it comes from a place of love for me. It's hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
The legacy is large, folks, for this whole thing, and I think we, in spite of what I just talked about, we've got a lot to look forward to with still these archival releases that are going to continue up through, after this we're going to get 15 Big Ones and Love You, and all that, goodness. It's just gonna and I think there's gonna be a lot of excitement. The Beach Boys music is gonna live for, I hope, forever. But I mean, it's so significant that it there will always be action around this, and so I think we have a lot to look forward to, and I'm optimistic about the future of Beach Boy music and its legacy.
Yeah, well, and this is the end of the history. We've made it through their career, and so it's been, for me as the student, if you will, or the person that did not have the knowledge, it started out as like, well, how much can there really be? And whew, boy, there's a lot. Like can't even get to it with what this would be. 27 episodes or something for us, and still we left stuff out. Like it is a vast, dense history that's essentially still kind of going, even with this in this kind of tail end.
Oh, that reminds me. I've just recently found out that David's book, The Beach Boys and California Myth, is going to there's going to be an updated version, and the cover of it is the Summer Days picture, but I think it's going to be called this time God Only Knows, but I think it gets released this fall, and it's going to have some updated stuff like my 85 version does and everything, but I wanted to say that's
coming too.
Yep.
Okay. Well, and like we said in the beginning, there will be a season 3, and it'll definitely, season 1 was a different format, season 2 was different, and then season 3, and it's going to be different in the way of more supplemental to season 1 than anything else. And we do have plans to do a full-on walkthrough of this Beach Boys museum that Matthew has created here. So that, not sure when we're going to get to that, but that's been a plan from the beginning.
Yeah.
And we do, so just another reason.
I'm excited about that
to
too.
remember to, and that way, because you've seen this all behind us, but you'll be able to put all the pieces of the puzzle, because you definitely don't get a full understanding of the way that he has displayed everything and how you move through the area. I wonder if people think it's bigger than it is, if they think it's smaller.
It's just a little under 1,000 square feet.
Just okay.
There you go. They'll know.
And so another reason to make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification. I think with that.
Well, I want to say one more thing. I wanted to acknowledge you.
Oh.
I mean, I want to recognize you and what you've done for. I could never have done any of this without you, and I just really appreciate your professionalism, the way we work together. How efficient we are these days. I mean, we bang these things out, and then the covers, it just amazes me.
Yeah.
It's what it started with, and now what we've got it down to, and your creativity and what you bring to the videos via the artwork. I mean, I love all the title pages on the YouTube thing and the colors that I know you did that probably because a lot of my synesthesia related type stuff, but it's just beautiful, man. Yeah. I can't mention everything, but I just want to thank you again.
Well, it's been fun, and well, when we started this, I could tell that this was something that this was I could just tell how you talked to me about the Beach Boys before we ever even had a podcast, that it is a passion. You can tell when someone's in their passion, and I don't care what it is. I love when someone is speaking from their passion, because you can see them light up. And if if nothing else, the fact that I could help you with this project that you're just so passionate about, I was all for it. And so, and I think that has to have something to do with how, the success and how people are we're gravitating and those comments those comments mean a lot to us. They really do. Like, when you guys say that you're binging or can't stop watching, like that really makes us feel good, and that we can share this, because I was always a Beach Boys fan, but now I mean I got some Beach Boys knowledge, and there'll be times.
Heck, you've been an advocate now. How many people have you turned on to Sunflower?
Oh, Sunflower's the one. I'm like, hey, you like the Beach Boys? Yeah. Do you know Sunflower? No, what? Okay, listen to Sunflower. You have listen, and even the 1985 album. If someone's an 80s fan, that's been my most recent one. Is I'm like, you want to listen to a good 80s album? The Beach Boys had this album in the 80s that I had never even heard of. And it's fantastic 80s music. And so I've had it turned a couple of people onto that one too.
Very
so
cool.
I'm out there advocating as well. So, but we can't thank you guys enough for listening and commenting. It really, honestly, it really is motivating. If without you guys, we wouldn't be doing a season 3, most likely. Like the fact that we have you interested and listening all the time, it really makes a difference. Okay, we got people. Let's go. And the album analysis for me, I mean, that's the funnest part, like really putting those headphones on and trying to hear everything back there.
I can't wait till next season because, and the fans will get why I'm excited about it, because your analysis started with 70 up to the president and now up to the present. And now we're going back and getting the very beginning of their career up through the famous part and all that, so it'll be really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next season. And, we'll just see you with some other random videos in the meantime. Thank you.